Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome staff, council, members of the public to our 6 o'clock p.m. council meeting dated June 5th, 2023. Could you all please rise and stand and sing an O Canada with us? And joined by, or led by Councillor Masters. Thank you, everybody. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Please be seated. At the town of New Tecumseh, we acknowledge that we are on the treaty lands and traditional territory of Anishinaabe peoples, specifically the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. This land is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. New Tecumseh was covered by the Lake Simcoe Nottawasaga Treaty No. 18th, signed on October 17th, 1818 with the Chippewa Nation. We acknowledge that we are all treaty people and accept our responsibility to honor all our relations and move forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Thank you. I'm going to go to council. Are there any awards or recognitions for members of council tonight? I'll go around the horseshoe. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. I want to thank council for joining me on May 27th for the return of the Beaton Honey and Garden Festival. It was an overwhelming success, and I just want to thank all the organizers, volunteers, and sponsors. On June 3rd, myself, Mayor Norcross, Councillor Gabrick, and Councillor Rappin joined members of the Beaton Lawn Bowling Club as they celebrated their 91st anniversary. And they also acknowledged the generous equipment grant they received from the Ontario Trillium Foundation. And I'm hoping to use the next 91 years to improve on my game.
Thank you. Yeah, I heard you bowled, Councillor, but I heard you did a good job. So apparently they're recruiting you. So anyhow, Councillor Gabrick, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd also like to thank the Muslim Women's Association of Northern Ontario for their Empowerment of Women Through Their Faith symposium that was held in Innisfil on Saturday night, and I was in attendance to bring greetings on behalf of the town of New Tecumseh.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm just coming around the horseshoe. Councillor Harrison McIntyre, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to acknowledge that it's Pride Month, and we were at the flag raising, and this is just a hope that we individually, we each uniquely reflect. Oh, sorry. May we dedicate ourselves to building bridges of love and hope where harmful divisions have been made, making equity and equality for all people our goal, while working continually for justice.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison McIntyre. Yes, the town has proclaimed the month, and we've also raised the flag out front. I just come around the horseshoe this way, and so Councillor Masters.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to acknowledge this past Saturday's Cycle for Sight that was held in New Tecumseh, and it started and ended up at the Gibson Centre. there was over 190,000, 190 riders were registered, and it was a great day. Everybody had a great time, and the Cycle for Sight put on a great show, and I think that it's going to come back to us again next year, and we're going to make it bigger and better. Also, I have one other little announcement to make, if I may. June 17th is the Kite Festival in Beaton. It's going to be held there at Mel Mitchell Field, and it's put on by the South Asian Group, and it's going to be a really big show. And so bring your kids, bring your family. It's going to be a great event. There's going to be lots of vendors there and things to do, and it's going to be great for the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Masters. And just so you know, Councillor Masters rode his pedal bike. He did 35 kilometers in 1 hour and 54 minutes and came 5th. So way to go, Councillor Masters.
I survived.
Councillor Jacks, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. It is only June 5th, but beginning at the end of this month, on Friday, June 30th, it will kick off the Tottenham Community Week, which is an annual week-long festival with events every single day for 9 days. And on July 1st, Saturday, July 1st, at the Tottenham Conservation Area will be the New Tecumseth Canada Day celebrations, including spectacular fireworks. Please check out all of the activities for the day's events at www.tottenhamcommunityweek.ca.
Oh, that's great. No, well done. There's tons of activities going on. I just, you know what, it's just, we have such a unified council that there's so many events going on now that COVID's over, and we're all spreading out to make sure that our attendance is as at all these events, which I know is greatly appreciated. We can't be all at the same place at the same time, but we're certainly working together to make sure that we support our community groups that are out there. So I say thank you for that. So I'm going to go to confirmation of the agenda, please. I'm going to look to the clerk to identify any items to add or delete to the agenda, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. We do have one item to add to the agenda, and that's a continuation of the closed session from the working session. So at the end of the agenda, if council will go into closed session to continue discussion about the water treatment plant.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So I have a motion I'd ask to move by Councillor Foster, second by Councillor Masters. Please, thank you. Be it resolved, the agenda for the council meeting held on June 5th, 2023 be confirmed as circulated. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Disclosures of pecuniary interests. If you have one, you can declare it now. If something comes up during the course of our meeting, please raise your hand. We'll identify you immediately, and you can declare that pecuniary interest then. So moving on to the adoption of the council meetings, I would minutes. Look to Councillor Jacks and Councillor Biss, if you would move in second. Thank you. Be it resolved that the minutes of the council meeting dated May 15, 2023 be adopted as circulated. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. I'll now go back to the clerk. Determination of items requiring separate discussion, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's two items. The first is the deputation this evening regarding the Banting Memorial High School replacement. And the second issue is the closed session verbal report of the CAO water treatment plant update.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And now I'll go to the council. Are there any items for separate discussion? Go around. Councillor Masters, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. CW 3.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm just going around the horseshoe the other way. Councillor Harrison McIntyre, please.
R1.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other members of council? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I'll go to the clerk and ask her to summarize all items identified for separate discussion, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. D-1, deputation regarding Banting Memorial High School replacement. R-1, Mayor Student Bursary Program 2023 applications. CW13, motion by Councillor Masters regarding Twin City agreement. And lastly, the closed session verbal report of the CAO water treatment plant update.
Thank you. So I have a motion here, be it resolved that items CW1 to CW5 in the Committee of the Whole meeting report dated May 15th, 2023, including additional information memorandums, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be approved, and the recommendations therein be adopted. And further, that item CS1, considered at the Committee of the Whole working meeting dated June 5th, 2023, be approved, and the confidential recommendation therein be adopted. And further, communication items and any other items listed on the council meeting agenda dated June 5th, 2023, with the exception of those items identified for separate discussion, be received and or adopted. I look at Councillor Cox and Councillor Gabrick. Would you move in second? Thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Council. We do not have any deputations requiring statutory or public meetings. So we're going to move on to our first deputation and only deputation. But we have Corey Van Nispin, Bantam Memorial High School replacement. Would you like to come up to the podium? Welcome. We'll get you all set up there. And our typical procedure is 7 minutes for presentations and then questions or comments afterwards, if you're okay with that. Thanks, Corey. Floor's yours.
Great, thank you. Good evening. My name is Corey Van Nispin, Superintendent of Business and Facility Services with the Simcoe County District School Board. Thank you for allowing us to come with a deputization on this exciting Banting Memorial High School building replacement project. Next slide, please. Chairperson Jody Lloyd sends her regrets. However, tonight with me I do have Trustee Sarah Bites, Director John Dance, and Manager Andrew Kukin. Before I begin, I need to thank the town of New Tecumseh's staff, who have been providing us much needed information related to this process along with other initiatives. We have a great working relationship with your staff and are appreciative of their efforts. Next slide, please. Some quick background for those that may be new to this project. This was identified as one of the school board's top capital priorities for our school board in 2015 due to the facility condition issues and its status of being prohibitive to repair, which means it would cost substantially more to fix the building and its components than to just build a new one. We submitted business cases to the Ministry of Education for this project on multiple occasions. Approval for funding of $41.5 million was received in November of 2021 for a 1,288 pupil place school with a childcare space. With this approval, we ramped up our due diligence activities on where the replacement school could be built. Next slide, please. During the due diligence activities, we looked in detail at over 10 locations, as well as the ability to rebuild on the current school site. After utilizing an architect that specializes in high-density construction, it was determined we could rebuild on the current site. However, it brings with it a number of short and long-term challenges, such as loss of amenities and programming for students during the multi-year construction, disruption to the neighboring residents through the construction process, road closures, parking, and the site itself is small and irregular in size, limiting our flexibility in future accommodating growth and amenities. When looking at new sites, we considered and weighed the key considerations presented here. Next slide, please. After careful review of the various options, staff have concluded that a greenfield location is far more advantageous for the school community than rebuilding on the existing school site, and thus the preferred path. Of the greenfield sites, the Banting Homestead and Heritage Park would be an ideal location as it meets the key considerations provided earlier, along with some potentially unique benefits not possible elsewhere. The SCDSB, Simcoe County District School Board, would like to move forward with pursuing a project on the Banting Homestead. Past history with other school build projects has shown us that when the school board and the local municipality work together, the project proceeds on a reasonable timeline with minimal issues and is a positive experience. We ask tonight for the town of New Tecumseh's support for this project. Next slide, please. Key considerations of the homestead site, its size and location. It has potential access from both Sir Frederick Banting Road as well as the neighboring subdivision. Of the 107-acre site, the school would require approximately 15 to 20 acres, depending on the design and amenities required. Appropriate land use designation, zoning, and permissions are required. Since it is outside of the settlement area and is a heritage site, we would need town support for county and town official plan amendments and a zoning bylaw amendment. Timing. With utility servicing and capacity available via the John Taylor Avenue And while acknowledging there are some other hurdles to overcome, a reasonable timeline for construction and opening is anticipated. Construction would be logistically easier on a greenfield with less disruption to the surrounding neighbors. Transportation and walking, again, easy access to the site and currently over 400 walkers within the walk zone, with more expected in the future. And there are more unique opportunities to be considered. Next slide, please. An exciting prospect of this idea would be the obvious synergies this project could take advantage of. Beyond the name of the school, there could be some new programming, health sciences, active living, etc. These opportunities at the school, and the true partnership honoring the legacy of Sir Frederick Banting. Enhancements or incorporation of the existing site amenities into the school and vice versa. We have the Legacy Trail, possible staff student-led restoration activities, childcare partner day camps, use of the school for municipal and heritage activities, etc. We could look at a unique building and site design elements that fit the nature of the site and the community. For example, the rural and farm themes, the octagonal features as seen on the drive shed, or other outdoor amenities. There could be an opportunity for the inclusion of a state-of-the-art artificial turf and track field, blending the old with the new. Due to the location and the existing use, this could allow for other partnerships or campus-style opportunities. For the school piece, the Simcoe County District School Board is flexible with regards to the style of agreements with the town regarding property ownership, be it leasing, ownership, co-ownership. This path would allow for the reuse of the existing Banting Memorial High School site for another opportunity. It would be the intent of the Simcoe County District School Board to dispose of the site as per regulations, so redevelopment could occur. The homestead location would also provide flexibility as New Tecumseth continues to grow. A second New Tecumseth High School will be needed in the future, but until that occurs, we may need to accommodate some of that growth via additions and or portables on this Banting Memorial High School site. Next slide, please. And in closing, the Simcoe County District School Board would like to move forward with pursuing a project on the Banting Homestead and Heritage Park. And tonight, we ask that the town of New Tecumseth support for this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Corey. I'm sure there's going to be questions. I'm sure you're anticipating a few, actually. So it is a deputation tonight, which we typically receive deputations, then we communicate at a future date. But comments or questions from members of council? I'll start with Councillor Best, please.
Thank you, Worship. Through worship to Corey, I guess my first question would be, as you know, it's a heritage site. Have you worked out an agreement, or have you had a discussion with the Banting Memorial Foundation?
No, we have not. That would be a next step if we get the opportunity to move forward with town staff.
Okay. Second question. I guess, do you have a plan, a layout plan, or an idea of what the building itself is going to look like in terms of square footage and facilities?
We have not done a full design to date. We do know, based on ministry funding, the approximate size that it will incur, hence the approximate size of acreage that I indicated we would require. But a detailed plan has not been developed. As we do that, once we have confirmation of the site that we will be building on.
Final question, Your Worship. Through Worship to Corey. My last question is then, so will you be taking recommendations or input from the community in terms of what kind of facilities to offer? And also, would council be, would you be coming to council for any type of support to offset some of these facilities?
So with any school build that we have, we are always looking for partnerships. Municipal partners have been very successful in the past. We've seen it with our Nottawasaga Pines secondary school. We have a partnership there with the library where we have shared space there, as well as the OPP have a touchdown office there. So that's just one example of where we have had a partnership with the municipality. So it is definitely as we go through the design phase, we also like to acknowledge the area and the community that we build the schools in. So the architects will take that into account. Now, bear in mind, we are funded by the province when it comes to building schools, so there is a set funding model for that. But we do try to work in those elements. And as I presented there as well, we could look at something with regards to the octagonal, like the shed that's on site there, incorporating something along those lines into the design.
Thank you. Councillor Jacks?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Corey. I'm excited to hear that there is ideation being brought forward. I was a Banting graduate, and my daughter will ideally be a Banting student in a couple of years. So it's interesting to see which version of Banting High School she will be attending. A couple of questions, if you don't mind. Just off the top, the $41.5 million that's been awarded, will that include the cost of the demo on the existing site?
No, it will not. That is something that, when it comes to disposal of the site at a later date, would be something that we would, if we're moving off that site, it'd be something that we would work out with the whoever is purchasing the site.
Okay, thank you. And you had mentioned as well that you've had very favorable and productive communication with town staff in starting to source out information for this proposal. Do you foresee in any issues, or has there been any advice given to you as it pertains to having that area rezoned?
At this point in time, we have not gone down the detailed path of that. We know the general direction that we are required to take. Town staff has been very instrumental in providing the information with regards to servicing in the area of that site, and then with regards to information as we've done our due diligence around the community.
Thank you. One more question, Your Worship, if you're okay. Last question. You mentioned in the slide that was talking about the favorable reasons that this would be a good location. I was intrigued in reading ahead of time as well about the idea of municipal partnership and this site providing and lending itself to future opportunities. I'll be specific with my question, and you may not have the answer tonight, but I would love to ask, and perhaps you could bring it back at a later date. Could one of these opportunities through municipal partnership be the construction in the 15 to 20 acres of a municipal pool that could be a partnered venture with the town, with the school board or province, and perhaps other third party? I know other municipalities have a trilogy of shared partnership with, I'll just say, the YMCA, for lack of a better group at this point. Is that something, well, I'll ask rhetorically because you may not have the answer, but would that be something that you'd be in the position to consider? Thank you.
I'm always happy to talk about options and opportunities. We currently do not in our school board have a facility that has a pool in it. They do bring a high operational cost, as well as we don't get funded from the ministry to build pools in our school. So we haven't had that project or that opportunity. One of the drawing factors I mentioned in the presentation is because of the size of the land or the property, there's that campus or hub opportunity there. So there's something that potentially could be developed over a number of years, be it school is the first opportunity that's there, and then add to it either onto the school or alternate buildings to make that community center, if you will.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Masters?
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Corey. I'm just curious, the Banting Homestead there takes up quite a bit of acreage where it is right now. How do you see the school integrating with that particular site area? What's your vision? I know you're going to, from what I understand, you're going to expand on that as part of the...
So that would be part of the work that we would proceed with town staff. Although I can say that the utilities are coming off of the stubs that are coming from the subdivision immediately to the south. So I would envision that we would have to have that placement on the south end of the property in order to take advantage of those connections.
Supplementary, yeah, sorry, I guess I was kind of meaning in conjunction with the school location to the site itself. You know, is it going to be surrounding it? Is it going to be off to one side? You couldn't tell from the map, you know, how it's going to integrate with the school.
Again, the acreage that we're looking for is a smaller portion of the 107, 15 to 20. So it could potentially fit, again, we'd have to work through that, on that south end, so it would be potentially south of between the house and the homestead house and the subdivision to the south, and sort of somewhere along that property line.
Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Thank you, Corey, for your presentation. I have two questions. Existing at the bottom of the Banting Road at 89, and we've had this discussion at council about the idea of getting buses out of there, let alone cars, and traffic warrants that Director Vatry has spoken to. Any existing infrastructure upgrades, whether it be road sizing or anything else, does your $41.5 million cover the piece of land where the property is, or does it extend to existing infrastructure upgrades as a necessity, or as that may come out as a result of your school?
So the 41 million is for the building of the school proper, the building itself. Part of our process whenever we do build a school is we do a traffic study in the immediate area to determine if there is anything that requires to be addressed in order for the school to function in the community.
Okay, supplementary to that, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you did a traffic study and it came back that there was additional infrastructure required, is that something that there's an opportunity for funding from the ministry for that, or that would just be, we've built the school, here you go, town of Mina? I'm just trying to understand how that process would play out.
Fair enough, and without knowing the potential magnitude of what those upgrades potentially could be, I can't answer that question at this point in time.
And I'll try one more time.
Okay.
In past examples where you've built schools and there have been significant infrastructure upgrades, has the ministry paid any of those costs, or have the costs all been borne by the municipality where you built the school? So I'm looking at past history then.
I'm trying to recall a requirement for a significant, and I don't, in memory, recall a significant upgrade being required of the transportation ways.
Okay, fair enough, thank you. And one quick one. The disposition process for your existing property, I think there's a very defined process. Can you just briefly tell us how that would work?
Yes, so the current process, which is actually in transition with a latest bill that has come through the current government, there is the first step is to offer it to public partners, if you will. So first step is usually the coterminous board or the Catholic board that's in the area. Under the new regulations, I believe step 2 is for provincial initiatives, potentially housing initiatives would then take priority. And then there's the list of other municipal entities and whatnot that it would go through. If we don't have any takers in that piece of it, then it goes to the open market.
And just quickly, is that process public information? Like,
Yes.
could you provide that to us to be distributed to council so we could just understand what might happen with that?
Yep, absolutely.
And thank you very much for your questions, or for your answers.
Thank you, Councillor Foster. Sorry, I'm just going to go around this way. Councillor Harrison McIntyre, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship, through you. What were some of the other sites? I think I can understand from your perspective, this is a green field. From our perspective, it's a designated property and it's agricultural land. And with the loss of 319 acres every day of Ontario farmland, it's vulnerable. It's a vulnerable property. So what were the other properties that you were looking at that are in the top 3, let's say?
So I can't get into specifics with regards to the specific properties because we didn't have discussions with property owners and so forth. But a majority of the properties were outside of the settlement area, if you will. Again, not checking the box because utilities. Utilities is the big piece that we need connection to in order to make this happen in a timely fashion. For the couple of properties that were within town limits, they weren't ideal with regards to where you would have students going to every day.
Thank you. Councillor Rappin?
Through you, thank you for coming, Corey. A couple questions. First off, partnerships. There's obvious ones like YMCA, library, that kind of thing. Is there any that we might not realize are possible partnerships that would be in a high school build?
So current examples have been, as I indicated, majority have been municipal in the past. One of the additional ones that we have actually up at Georgian Bay District up in Midland is the local health unit. We have office space built on the one end of the school. They actually occupied space in the old Midland Secondary School, and so when we built the new school, we were able to, they supported the capital build, and we were able to incorporate offices into that facility.
Follow-up?
Please.
Any college satellite partnerships?
We currently do not have any of those.
Okay. All right. So you brought up your Midland High School. That's the newest one. Is that correct? Is it Midland? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Can you go back a few years as to when you were presenting to their council and telling them your ideas? Like, what year would have that been? And did that school did it open up in September? Am I?
No, sorry. No, that one opened, I want to say just before COVID. That's the
Okay.
timeline we're using now. I don't believe we went to town council on that one.
Oh.
No, we did not.
Okay. Well, I know it'd been in the news a lot, but I think it was that beautiful field they got. I think
That would have been Maple Ridge in.
Okay. All right. And then one of the big, not necessarily deterrent, but there's going to be, I don't know if kerfuffle's the right word for it, but businesses downtown right now that are across from the high school, they're going to be upset that they're losing that. Do you have any suggestions or ideas as to anything that could happen for those businesses that would maybe make them a little happier?
Unfortunately, the business is not my realm. I'm looking at we're looking at the school, and creating the school that's going to carry us the next 80 years with the students of New Tecumseth.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Gabrick?
Thank you, Your Worship, to Corey. Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of concerns about putting the school on the Banting Homestead. I do like the synergy, in addition to the name of the school itself. But some of the issues that I have are mostly surrounding walkability to the school and the impact that the traffic will have, as was mentioned by other councillors. But specifically, students with unique abilities who are utilizing in-town programs and, going to Zares and doing different things during the school day. They would lose that unless there was some busing. Like, everything would then rely on busing, unless you were directly in the neighborhood abutting the property. The other issue that I have that I could see as potential is any damage that might come to the homestead itself, because it is a heritage location and it is fragile, it's old. So like either during the construction phase as the big trucks are coming in, carrying loads, and or from students once they're on the property for a full time. So I was just wondering, I know you haven't liaised with the homestead people yet because you're here first, but if any consideration to those items has been considered.
No detailed plans with regards to those have been established yet, as we're at the point where we're trying to determine the site, and if we get that opportunity to work with staff, then those are items that we will work through. Obviously, supporting our students is number one. They're our number one priority. So when it comes to items like supporting the transportation and whatnot of students, that is something we will take into definitely consideration. Traffic studies with regards to easy access and whatnot to the school, to the community, will come into play, definitely.
Sorry, thank you. Councillor Cox?
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation tonight. I'm wondering if I can put a motion on the floor just to accept the presentation, but if I can also add to it, possibly that staff return with a report outlining the town's involvement and reasoning behind acquiring the homestead property, as well as the heritage designation approved by council and supported by the Conservation Review Board in 2007, as well as any information from the 1973 excavation indicating that the homestead is a possible Paleo-Indian campsite.
Okay, yeah, the motion that I was going to put forward was that be result of the deputation and presentation of Corey Van Nissen be received. So you'd like to add on to that. So I would look to the clerk. Were you able to capture that?
So I'm going to rely on Councillor Cox, who I believe has it written, to perhaps read it again or to provide it to me and I can read it. Okay.
If you could read it out, that would be,
Sure, it's just that additionally, staff return with a report outlining the town's involvement and reasoning behind acquiring the homestead property, as well as the heritage designation approved by council and supported by the Conservation Review Board in 2007, as well as any information from the 1973 excavation indicating the homestead as a possible Paleo-Indian campsite.
you're good, Madam Clerk?
I'm good.
Okay, so, okay, I'm just checking. And I'm sure Councillor Cox will provide it to you after the meeting tonight, right, Councillor Cox?
I will, thank you.
Thank you. So that's moved by Councillor Cox. The Deputy Mayor would like to second that. Is there any comments or questions on the motion that's on the floor? All those in favor of the motion, that's carried. Corey, thank you very much for your presentation. Good luck going forward, and you'll certainly be hearing from our town staff.
Thank you.
And to Director Vance and our school board trustee that are out there tonight. And I can't see who else is with you, but thank you very much for coming tonight. It's great to see you again. Thank you. So moving on to the next item on the agenda is R1. That's the Mayor's Student Bursary Program 2023 applications, and that was pulled by Councillor Harrison McIntyre, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just to be clear, you wanted to approve all 22 of the scholarships, bursaries? That's the motion that's on the floor, so that's...
Yeah, I can, yeah, sure, I can respond. We always do a minimum of $24,000. That's what the program was set out to do. We have excess money this year in the account, and we are able to provide $44,000 in bursaries. So basically, everybody is being approved, and it still leaves us with $24,000. So we can still, no matter what happens this year, we can still honor the commitment next year of providing those 12 bursaries. And that's the recommendation of the committee. But of course, it's council's discretion.
I'm supportive of that motion, and I'm really happy to see, like, there's a lot of outstanding applicants here, and I wish them all the best of luck.
Thank you, Councillor McIntyre. Yeah, it was nice to be able to approve, and I mean the committee worked very, very hard on that. So I want to thank them for all their hard work. And like I said, we still have 24,000 in small change, so we are still able to do the bursaries, the minimum bursaries next year. So Councillor Harrison McIntyre, would you move the motion? Yep. Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Gabbard, please. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're moving on to item CW1, which has been pulled by Councillor Masters, and that's the Twin City Agreement, please.
Thank you, Worship. I guess it was deferred last time, and I'd just like to add a comment to it that I think I maybe didn't explain it properly enough, that it was doing a Twin City agreement is not a short-term thing, and I think that it's going to take a lot of discussion between our one of our closest businesses here, Honda Canada, and they will have to have a lot of discussion with somebody that they would select as a Twin City in their region that would be suitable as a corresponding city to New Tecumseh. So there's no real involvement with us at this point in time, or the staff. I wouldn't think, based on my past experience, working for the Japanese, this would be kind of a long-term thing. We wouldn't see this at least for another year yet. So I'd like to bring it back and see if we can put the motion forward again, and with the knowledge that this is something that's going to take a while. It's not going to take an awful lot of time, in the next 6 months or so. I think it's going to probably be over a year or two before this starts to come to fruition, where we would actually get involved as the town, because I think a lot of this work has to be done behind the scenes through the Japanese themselves and through Honda, and before it gets brought forward to us. So I'd like to leave it at that, and I'll leave it up to the council. Thank you.
Okay, just to clarify, Councillor Masters, then, so you'd like to put the motion back on the floor for the Twin City Agreement that directs staff to contact
If I could,
HCM?
and then we can, then this is a gradual process from here on in. Yes.
Okay. Everybody has the motion. Is there a seconder for it? Councillor Foster. Please, absolutely. So you're seconded, so it's on the floor, by all means.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Just to clarify, I've not talked about this, but I think what you're looking for is the CAO to ask the CAO at Honda, has this been done before? Is this common? Is it not common? Are there opportunities? And yes or no? And then bring that back. And if he says there's no opportunities, then dead in the water. Yes, there are opportunities. It's really a quick phone call. Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, I'd like to qualify that. Actually, that's been quite commonly done in Canada, and there are twin cities here in Ontario that have worked out quite well. And I think that with our new strategic plan here, that we're looking to bring more culture into New Tecumseh, and this would be part of it, because part of touring a city is not just bringing shared business ties in, which is going to be helpful to us anyway, but it's also to start sharing the culture. So this also is going to impact our tourism down the road, and yes, in answer to your question, Councillor Foster, this would be something that our CEO would address with his contacts at Honda to initially start and get a ball rolling, if I can say that.
Councillor Foster?
So just to quickly clarify, this motion, in your mind, is an initial conversation, report back to council, and then it commits us to nothing, no expenditures, nothing, just a simple phone call.
Yes.
Thank you. Then I'll remain as a seconder on that motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rappin?
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Masters. I understand that Honda's a big employer in our area, but are there other businesses going, hey, why are you asking them? What about us? We'd like a Twin City with that, we're just focusing in on one of our businesses in the area, and that could lead to not the equity or equality or whatever, in the sense that we have other businesses. How come we didn't ask them?
Oh,
Thank you, Councillor Rappin. Yeah, that's a fair question. I think probably because this has been traditionally done this way, and especially in certain cities where there is a Japanese manufacturer already there, and where it's been started out, I guess, as a courtesy, and really to help bring that manufacturer and that manufacturer's culture into the area as a shared thing. Just so you know, Canada is Japan's favorite place for tourism. And you can talk to any Japanese person that visits this country, or go to Japan and speak to them. And Canada is one of the most favored places for Japanese to visit. So one of the advantages for us is that we don't have to wave our flag. If they say it's Canada, they're already coming. So we have an advantage to work with the Japanese in this case. They just love Canada, and they love particularly Ontario. As you can see, they have a lot of manufacturing here too. They love the people, they love the style of life, and they definitely love our golf courses here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Masters. Any other comments or questions? So essentially what you're saying is a courtesy call to Honda reach out, and they may not even be interested. And then the discussion and report could come back to council, and then we can have a fulsome discussion. Okay, so that's moved by Councillor Masters, second by Councillor Foster. All those in favor for the initial dialogue, please, and that's carried. Madam Clerk, do you want me to read the entire motion? Would that? I can.
Sure, Your Worship. I believe we are supposed to read them under the
100%.
procedure bylaw.
So CW1-3 Twin City Agreement, whereas a Twin City Agreement contributes to the promotion and celebration of cultural and economic ties to a community. And whereas a number of Ontario municipalities have successful Twin City Agreements that share common elements and promote cultural ties as well as agricultural and natural similarities. And whereas Honda Manufacturing, a Japanese-based conglomerate, has contributed strongly to New Tecumseh's economic vitality, now therefore it be it resolved that Council directs staff to investigate the opportunity for the town of New Tecumseh to enter into a Twin City Agreement with a Japanese city through the Office of the Consulate General of Japan, and further that the CO contact Honda Manufacturing explore partnership opportunities on this initiative, and further that staff report back to Council at a future date. There you go, that's the motion. So duly moved by Councillor Masters, second by Councillor Foster. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, Council. So I'm just going to move on to the bylaws. And I have a motion be it resolved the following bylaws be read a first, second, and third time enacted. Bylaw 2023057, the bylaw for sign execution of agreement with the Beaton Tosnance Business Improvement Association to deliver the Canada Day pre-fireworks event at Tottenham Conservation Area. Bylaw 2023-058, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2023-014, being the appoint council representatives and members of the Youth Advisory Committee for the Town of New Tecumseh. Deputy Mayor, would you move that? Yes, okay. Councillor Harrison McIntyre, would you second that? Thank you very much. All those in favor? Thank you, Council. So now we're going to be going into closed session. And this was an item from previously discussed today in our working session. So the motion would be that Committee of the Whole convene into closed meeting at, I have 6:47. Councillor Jackson, Councillor Biss, would you move in second? Thank you very much. So we're going to be in closed session. Verbal report of the CAO for water treatment plant update as per the Municipal Act Section 23921, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization in Section 239-2K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. All those in favor? And that's carried. Council will go into closed session. I'll look to the fire chief to help out, and I'll look to the deputy clerk to confirm that Okay, welcome back, council, staff, and members of the public. I have a recommendation that council reconvene into open meeting at 7:29 PM following discussion of item CS1, verbal report of the CO reference water treatment plant update. So I'm going to move in or seconder. Councillor Biss, Councillor Jacks, thank you. All those in favor, that's carried. And then we have CS1, we have a recommendation that the verbal report of the CO be received for that the confidential direction therein be adopted. Could I have a mover or a seconder, please? Councillor Cox, Councillor Harrison McIntyre, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, council. Okay, general information, public notice. There is a planning public meeting scheduled for Wednesday, June 7th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in council chambers. We have a confirming bylaw. Be resolved that bylaw 2023-059 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting on June 5th, 2023 be read a first, second, and third time and enacted. Deputy Mayor, you'll move that. Councillor Rappin, would you second that? Thank you very much. All those in favor, and that's carried. Adjournment. We have a motion be resolved that the council meeting dated June 5th, 2023 meeting adjourned at 7:30 p.m. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Foster. All those in favor, that's carried. Okay, council, we'll go right into our committee meeting if we can. Well, why don't we take a quick 5-minute break then, and while the clerk gets set up, okay? Thank you. Please. Thank you very much. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to move into our committee of the whole meeting, Monday, June 5th, 2023. So we have confirmation of the agenda. We have a recommendation that the agenda for the committee of the whole meeting held on June 5th, 2023 be confirmed as circulated. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Jacks, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does anybody have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? Not seeing one. If one comes up, please raise your hand. Termination of items requiring separate discussion. I would look to the clerk now to identify items for separate discussion and the reason thereof, please, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are no items requiring separate discussion.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to go around the horseshoe this way. Is any council members have any items they want to pull for discussion? CW53. Councillor Foster, CW53, going around. Councillor. Okay. Councillor Jacks. Going around the horseshoe. Okay. Coming back around, Councillor Harrison McIntyre, please.
CW51, please.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to reach out to members of the public. Is there any members of the public that would like to speak to any of the items on the agenda tonight, please? And I'm not seeing any. So now I will go back to the clerk to summarize all items identified for separate discussion, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. CW41, staffing update. CW51, community improvement plan, facade improvement grant and signage, awning and lighting grant, 45 Victoria Street East. CW53, town hall project status report number 11.
Thank you. So I have a recommendation that all the items not identified for separate discussion be received, and the recommendations therein be recommended to council for adoption. Councillor Masters and Councillor Biss, would you move in second? Thank you very much. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, council. We have no council items. So the first item that was pulled was CW41, and that was pulled by Councillor Jacks. Please, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to staff, I just wanted to, first of all, thank Director Thompson for the preparation of the staffing update report, as requested in a previous motion. Definitely great information, and I just have a couple of questions, if that's okay, as it pertains to the updated information. The first is, to date this year, 40 staff have left their positions. And I noticed the second sentence is along with the summer seasonal positions needing to be filled, recruitment has been busy, and I can only imagine. There is a table that outlines not just the permanency of the positions that were vacated, but as well by department. I was wondering if it would be reasonable to ask if there were, why 40 people left.
Thank you. I'll go to the director, please.
Yes, it's working. Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Jacks. So a number of reasons, different higher paying positions in other municipalities, workload, lack of flexibility. A lot of people are looking for more working from home and so forth. They're finding it elsewhere. So there is a variety, but those I would say are the top three.
Supplementary?
Councillor Jacks, please.
Thank you. Remember anecdotally from our budget planning sessions that one of the councillors asked if we have in place with the town staff any sort of formal exit interview. And I believe the answer, so please correct me if I'm wrong, was that no, but we again anecdotally rely on the department heads and directors to through their ongoing coaching and communication would understand the reasoning for the departure, and then provide that feedback to HR if HR had not solicited that on their own. That was my understanding. So I guess my question is, with 40 vacancies since the beginning of the year, is there a desire to implement a more rigorous exit interview process that's formal and consistent with anyone leaving. And to follow up on that, does the number concern?
We do.
Does the number concern us to the point of activating an employee engagement survey?
Through your mayor, CAO going to speak?
Sure. I'll go to the CAO. You can direct how you like, sir.
Thank you, and I'll ask Ms. Thompson to provide details about the last employee engagement survey. Councillor Jacks, to answer your question, we actually do exit interviews if people wish to participate in them. What I said when I was asked about exit interviews is I don't believe in solely relying on exit interviews because, in my opinion, the message that sends to your staff that are still here is that their opinion only matters when they leave. And I don't think that's the culture that you want in your organization. I would rather invest our efforts into actually talking to our people while they're here and asking them questions like, what would make you leave? What would make you stay? Things like that. So we do exit interviews. We do factor in what we learn from them, but I don't believe it's a wise decision from an organization standpoint to rely solely on exit interviews because I think it sends the wrong message to the people that still work here. I'll just further to that, Mayor Norcross, I will ask Director Thompson to speak with the employee engagement survey.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Norcross, to Councillor Jacks. So we did have an employee engagement survey just before COVID, and we implemented many improvements. We are planning to do another fulsome one next year. However, this year we are planning to do a smaller survey just to get a bigger feeling for the flexible workplace policy. We implemented it as a pilot project last year. We've been going around talking to staff to get their feedback more. So we'll be formalizing that by probably in another 2 months or so. So we'll be tweaking it and improving it because we do hear that. And we've also right now in the process of gathering information for the conditions of employment. So that is all our policies and benefits and so forth. So we solicit that every 4 years, input on how to make things better. We take that information away. We look at our comparators, see how we compare with our comparators, and we make recommendations to executive as to what we can improve. And we definitely do improve every 4 years. So we're always making sure we're at the top of all our comparators, whether it's benefits, policies, and so forth. So we are very proactive in that way. So that's in the works
Thank you.
right now.
Thank you. One last question, please. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to staff. The only other question I had was specifically regarding the project manager for transportation and traffic and transportation. So understanding the report, and that was an excellent update and very enlightening, needing to then downgrade the role, would that be the right term, to a coordinator of transportation and traffic. And the one line of the report, this will reduce the efficiency of project management for traffic and transportation until the new graduate is able to fill the role of an experienced and fully qualified project manager approximately 2 years. So my question for staff today is, what can we as councillors in supporting our residents in the various wards, what should we expect as there is a queue? Everyone's aware of the traffic and transportation project manager role being vacant for some time now. There's a queue, traffic safety, and a newly formed committee is coming our way. It's definitely a topic that is, well, I'll speak for my ward, relevant, and the residents are definitely looking for support in that area. So what could we expect then, let's say, for the balance of this year and based on the ramp up of 2 years, all of 2024, as it pertains to service provided to residents from this particular department, division, or role? Thank you.
So I think Director Vatry is the best one to answer that.
Through your worship, to Councillor Jacks. I think, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. I think the best way to describe it is that typically what we look for in a project manager is approximately 5 years of experience. So then they've seen most things. With respect to traffic issues, they understand how to look for the issues and gather the data and propose forward solutions that work and that are in keeping with industry standard. With getting a fresh grad, they have a good background on how to do it, but I don't think they've a lot of times, or they haven't actually undertaken those projects, meaning that it's a learning process right from the beginning for them. What the impact will be is that it just takes longer for these young graduates to get up to speed on how to do things. So the first time through will be their first time, and it'll be the longest time. Second time will be a little quicker. Third time will get a little bit faster again. And it's just that timing that'll take to train them so that they understand what the process is and to get some confidence to move quickly through some of these projects.
Thank you. No, and I think that that was the assumption that I made from reading the report. So thank you for clarifying that. So what I've just or what can we understand from what you just shared that now that this person is in role with the support of the engineering department and the subsequent departments that will support this person's training and onboarding, we will begin the process of working through the tickets in the queue. It's just that the resolution of those tickets may take longer than they would have had we hired someone who was a 5-year experienced project manager.
Through your worship to Councillor Jack, that's exactly it. It'll just take time for them to get up to speed, and we have started working through that queue. I think some emails were sent out late last week on a couple of other issues that help move things along. So again, she is working through the queue and will continue to work through it, and she has the support of the department to make sure that she can get through it as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison McIntyre, did you want to make a comment or a question?
Yeah, thanks. Through you, Your Worship. Just wondering, do we keep any resumes and look back through them for? Leave it at that.
So through your mayor to Councillor Harrison McIntyre, we have all sorts of resumes in our system. Due to the lack of staffing, we didn't have the time to go back and look and call those people back and say, hey, you applied for this, but we now have this. Would you be interested? But now that we've hired our second person, we definitely have that much more time. So we'll definitely be doing things like that.
And just a comment, some of the job positions, I went to the website to see what the descriptions were, to see if I could think of anybody who might be good for them. And we don't have any of them on there right now on the town website. From my searching, we only have the fire prevention officer posting. So is there a reason that these vacancies aren't there?
Yeah, so when the job closes, they come down. Okay. So for that reason, because when the job closes, we collect the resumes up to that point. If we need to repost, we'd repost it again. But no, when it closes, it comes down.
Okay, I was thinking about some ones that say that they've been vacant for 5-6 months, like.
So they're probably not posted right now, or they've been posted and they've come down. Which ones would you be thinking about?
It was the recreation coordinator, I think.
Okay, that one was posted earlier this year, and we didn't get any successful candidates, so we took it down, and we'll be reposting it again. Parks and Recreation didn't want to repost it immediately again because there was no point doing that, so we just usually wait about a month or two before reposting to get a fresh kind of look on that, so, yeah.
Councillor Rappin?
Through you to staff. So one of the reasons that people were leaving was flexibility and work from home. I don't know hiring practices and laws or anything like that, but is there an advantage to hiring people that live closer to here so that their home is nearby? That's one. The other one was 64 declined interviews on the national a couple months ago. Interviews were happening, people were being paid and supplied transportation to get to the interview and to leave. I'm not saying that's something I want to do, but it is something that's happening right now in the workforce. And then finally, are we doing anything to build brand loyalty. Like, for example, are we hiring high school kids to do stuff that we can continue with them, and not just the lifeguards or the camp counselors, but are there ways that we can get them involved that would then lead to a path with the town?
Director?
So through your Mayor Norcross to Councillor Rappin. So with the first question, if we can hire individuals that work closer to our town, we do hire based on their skills and their qualifications, so we can really pick and choose where they come from. The interviews, 90% of them are virtual. People don't have to leave there anywhere. We do them virtually. Sometimes we'll do second interviews in person, but 90% are virtual, and it works really well because they can do it. A lot of them do it during their lunch hour, in their cars, wherever it's very accessible. With regards to brand, now that we have our second generalist, we certainly have a vision on expanding and creating a brand for ourselves, because we have more resources now. So, you know, on social media with LinkedIn, and looking at different ways on how we can rebrand and elevate our brand out there. We just didn't have the time to really focus on that, but we'll definitely be working on that now.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Then I would ask that Councillor Jacks, would you move the recommendation that report number HR 2023-002 be received?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison McIntyre, would you second that? Thank you. Council members, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Council, we're moving on to item CW51. It's pulled by Councillor Harrison McIntyre, the Community Improvement Plan, Facade Improvement Grant, Signage, Awning, and Lighting Grant. I'll turn it over to you, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would have to agree here with the comments that came back from Parks and Recreation, which were not supportive of the stucco proposed changes to the building. Having recently gone through a renovation and at an old building across the road on Victoria Street, we also took off some of the stone that was in front, and you know, we were able to save the brick that was behind it. We were able to do some work, and I think that the impact to the area and to the streetscape is just so much more positive than the examples that we have in other places where we have approved stucco on top of brick. And I'm thinking of, there's one in Beaton, there's a couple in Tottenham, and they ruined the building. I'm sorry to say, it aesthetically and then physically, they just ruined the building. So I am not supportive of this. I would go back to the owner and ask them to look at repairing the brick and taking off that stone to repair the brick behind, and get some quotes on that first, rather than approving this grant.
Thank you, Councillor. So then your recommendation would be to refer this back to staff to consult with the building owner to see if the brick could be saved, and a further report come back.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
To ask them to look at getting some quotes on that and bringing it back.
Deputy Mayor, I'd like to second that. Any comments and questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Council. Now we're moving on to CW53 that was pulled by Councillor Foster. I know a few people want to speak on it. Did you want to go first or last, Councillor Foster? It's up to you. Or how about, I'll go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. I'll just start with a couple of questions. I have quite a number. Looking at the report, it's a request for an additional contingency of $1.298 million. Is any of that money currently allocated, or what's the basis and grounds for that amount of money? Yeah, just some clarity on what the money's for, what it's proposed for. Just give us some more details, please.
I'll go to the... Where am I going? Oh, sorry, Tanya, sorry.
That's okay.
I'll go to you. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Sure. Through your worship to Councillor Foster. As you will have probably read in the report, we have taken some funding from the budget to spend towards construction contingencies above what we had hoped. And there's some explanations for some of the higher ticket items there. We've now reached a point where we believe that we will not have a satisfactory figure for furniture, fixtures, and equipment. We, of course, did have plans to, choose the right amount and the right type of furniture, but the construction project itself, unfortunately, has taken more in contingencies than we would have expected. In addition to that, so it's to pay for some of those that have already been incurred. In addition to that, we have a new requirement from the building inspector for integrated life safety testing. So that's an extra figure that we have to accommodate as well. We've got our furniture quote, and again, it is a little higher than we would have originally anticipated with inflation. We need to purchase our appliance package and fixtures and equipment for this building that we would not require here at 10 Wellington just due to its size.
Councillor Foster?
Supplementary, if I can. So, okay, I'll break that down into a couple things. Is looking back at the March 27th meeting, which I did, there was a specific question asked about the furniture, and it was referred to about the cooperative contract that we had with the county of Simcoe. And Councillor Rappin followed up with asking about the 2022 prices. But we had some assurance, well, my interpretation of that meeting was we had some assurance that that we shouldn't be concerned about the furniture aspect of it because it was handled through this cooperative, and that even though we were pushing out the furniture to accommodate for delays in the construction schedule, that was planned and managed, and that there was not going to be any cost implications. And now we see here in this 1.298 that is an actual fact, not the case from March 27th. So I'm just trying to understand what the change is between March 27th and June 5th.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Councillor Foster, to clarify, the furniture cost itself, so the cost of, say, a desk, for example, did not go up. What has happened is we've had to take from that anticipated spend to put towards further contingency on the construction project. We also met with staff since March 27th to finalize storage requirements and some other things above and beyond the actual physical office furniture itself, where we've determined that we would have to make some additional purchases as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gaudette. So then, to refer to the comment about to date, staff have been accommodating contingency overages through a reduction in planned furniture, fixtures, and equipment purchase. Can I get an exact number to attach to that? So what is our contingency? What exactly is the overage? What has been plundered from fixture, furnishings, and equipment in order to satisfy the current overages? So I can start to establish an understanding of why we're into this $1.3 million.
Would you like to answer, please?
Sure, and I just want to clarify, thank you, Worship. I just want to clarify that I understand the question. So is the question, sorry, Councillor Foster, the difference that between what we had for contingency and what we've currently approved for contingency?
Sure, so to clarify, so I'm reading from the report. To date, staff have been accommodating contingency overages through a reduction in planned furniture. So if I go back to the original contract of June 14th, I think I have it in front of me here, there was a specific number for furniture, which was around $1.5 million, if my memory serves me correctly. And so, here it is right here. So FF&E from the June 14th, 2021 meeting, the award to Matheson was $14.5 million. the project contingency was 1.015. The 1.450 was the money allocated to FF&E. So if I'm reading this correctly, we have been taking money from the 1.45 because we have surpassed the 1.015. So I'm trying to establish what that number currently is. So we had a contingency of $1,015,000. You have said in your report that you've gone over that number and you've taken the money from FF&E. I want to understand what money have we currently taken from that? That's the specific question.
Manager?
Thank you, Worship. Currently, we have taken about $315,000 from FF&E to fund overages in our construction.
Okay, 315K. So then of the 1.298, right off the bat, if we want to return to a project that was approved in June 14th with nothing missing, we really only have $950,000, arguably spoken. So can I spend a second or two more on that 950? What's the anticipated allocation for that money, just in very general terms?
Manager?
Yep, sure. I'm just going to open the spreadsheet where we track those figures. Bear with me. Apologies, Worship. I'm just somebody else's spreadsheet, so I'm just trying to find the right one.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. The forecast is furniture, appliances, a move manager, life safety testing, maintenance equipment, and miscellaneous. And the forecast totals the budget if you wanted to break down by individual item, but that would total the forecast 900 and some that you had mentioned.
Okay.
Okay,
So that 950,000 is broken down into those half a dozen categories.
That's correct.
Okay. Can I ask why life safety testing is an additional, not to a base contract?
That I would actually have to defer to the building department, who I don't actually see here, but that was something that was flagged by the building inspector on one of their visits to the site. That, as I understand it, from both parties, the building department inspector and the consultant on the project, is fairly new in terms of having to have official oversight and submittals for that particular item.
Okay, so if it's okay with you, Councillor Foster, I'll kind of go
100%.
around and I'll come back. Thank you. Councillor Masters, please.
Thank you, Worship. Just bear with me for a minute. Just got to bring my notes back up. Modern technology. Thank you. Through to the CEO of Blaine Parkin. I've read the report. Thank you very much. My questions are more basic, I think, than Councillor Foster's. First of all, I'm a little troubled that what I read on this report doesn't really reflect what I visually saw when I was in the administration centre, when, as a member of council, we requested to see the building. I was actually quite taken back at the state of completion wasn't anywhere near that I thought it would be. And on the last report, if I remember correctly, in your report it mentioned that we'd be somewhat complete by Q2 which is June, I believe. And here we are now, further away again, and looking, who knows, maybe into August, October. I think, I suspect that some of this is we have a reporting issue. And I know, unfortunately, we lost Dan Burden, and you know, who was the monitor we were using on this particular project. And it's funny, before I became a councillor, I knew this was going to be an issue, this building. And I knew that we were already in trouble in some respects. So I sought out help from an expert, probably the #1 Canadian contractor builder of restoring commercial buildings. And after sitting with him, you know, his advice to me was, you know what, under the circumstances, I think you should recommend that we go and get an outside independent consultant and recommend that to council, because that way, you know, he's got no skin in the game, and you'll get a clear picture. And if I remember rightly, on my very first council meeting on November 22nd, that's what I recommended. And now we're faced with other issues and more defects that we're finding here now. And it seems to be going on infinitum. And I don't mean to be a damper on this, because I want to see this project go and get completed, even though I wasn't a supporter before I became on the council. But I know that we have to get this thing completed. So my question, Blaine, if I can be so bold to ask you, is, as I understand it, we hired VG Plus to hands off for our council, for us to handle this whole contract for us. They are the go-between, they are the person in charge, and they are responsible for managing Matheson, who is the contractor. And I can't say honestly, since I've been in this council 6 months, I have seen anything from VG Plus. You know, and the reports are coming directly from you, which I believe was a request by council some time ago. But I'm looking at some of the statements on here, you know, reportedly encountered, and so on. It's kind of like we're getting this report secondhand. What are you receiving reports from VG Plus that help you put these reports together? If I can be so bold as to ask you that question.
Through you, Mayor Norcross, to Councillor Masters, yes, there is quite regular interaction between our staff and Plus VG's architectural staff. But I would ask Ms. Gaudette to speak to that in detail, given that she's assumed the role of project manager here, and she's our point of contact with Plus VG, so she can certainly elaborate on the interaction between herself and Plus VG.
Okay, so I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but you know, I spent my life in the corporate industry, and more than 45 years, and the kind of reporting I've been used to is similar to a Japanese Kaizen chart, which says what, when, who, and how much. That's it. So we can clearly understand where we are with every little project within that project. And this was deficient last month. Was it the same? Is it deficient this month? When's it going to be fixed? Because, you know, I honestly, I get lost reading these reports, finding, well, was that part of the last report? Or was that this month, or what happened with it? And now we seem to get things expediting, and you know, in some respects, and other things seem to be retracting. I see here now that there are some other new defects that have been found, which some of it to do with brick and facade, and you know, I'm kind of surprised that this is showing up now, when you know, when we've been so far into this project. So, having said that, I personally, I think we need to regroup on this project, and we need to sit down with VG Plus, Matheson, and get a real clear understanding of, you know, they say words in here. I read It's the opinion of the staff that the consultant and the contractor has not yet sufficient materials and resources on site. What materials? What staff? What materials are holding up what part of the building? You know, these are general statements. I want to know. For instance, was it the windows holding up things? Are we short doors? Do we not have workers now to fix the facades? What are the real issues where we're being held up? And I think, you know, this general report that we receive is not enough for me, independently anyway. I'd rather see a fixed, simple report that says what's to be done, who's to do it, when is it to be done, and how much. And if there's a comment after that that says this is what's holding it up or something like this, then so be it. So it's all there for everyone to see. Anyway, in light of this, I really think that for me, I like to see us sit down and you know, and find out exactly where we are with this build right now. If we're going to put money after it, and what is the result of that? Or are we going to get another report that says we need another contingency of 500,000 or $1 million or whatever it is? I don't know. You know, for me, I don't know where we are on this build, and that's my comment. And perhaps there's an answer here somewhere, but.
Thank you, Councillor Masters, for that. Okay. Councillor Jacks, did you want to, sorry, I'm just going to go around the horseshoes. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Thank you, Your Worship. My question was just simply around substantial completion. So on March 27th, when we received the last report, it indicated that ideally it would be June that we could see considerable progress made that would allow for substantial completion. That we accepted the report, having not been on the property and not being a construction expert in any means. And then having the pleasure of touring the property. I was taken aback at the state of completion that it was in, but wanting to also be humble in my judgment, because I don't have a construction degree or background, but I did spend 2 decades opening restaurants. So I thought about that after the fact, and I thought, you know, Andrew, you're not an expert, you don't have the education or the training, but you've been on enough sites to know that when you were standing there, even 8 weeks prior, so March 27th, somebody saying to me this could easily be of substantial completion by June, whether it was June 1st or 30th, there was no way. There was no way that that would ever be a realistic statement. So my question is, looking at the report of today, it is stating August, whether that's the 1st or the 30th. I have not been back to the site, and perhaps extraordinary progress has been made since we were there for the site visit. Are we in a different place being able to state for this report that August 2023 is realistic for substantial completion? Or are we going to find ourselves in a similar position where we're now looking at a report in August that suggested in June that we were close to the finish line and we're not? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jacks. CAO?
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Through you to Councillor Jacks. What's conveyed in the report is consistent with what's been conveyed in previous reports as to what the schedule is that the contractor has provided to us. If you're asking our opinion as to whether or not the schedule that's been provided is realistic in our opinion, that can be a little bit of a touchy subject, because if I say no, then the contractor could double up their workforce on site tomorrow and prove me wrong very easily. In my opinion, if they continue to stay at the same level of workforce and effort, then no, their schedule I don't believe is realistic.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So I just want to say this out loud for myself and the record. The August 23rd is there. That is not based on staff's position or recommendation or estimation, I guess, at this point. This is solely on the timeline schedule that's provided from Matheson, which is the same schedule that was provided to us on May 27th that stated a June 23rd, 2023 occupancy, based on the current condition of that site and project on May 27th, or March 27th. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to continue around the horseshoe. And I'm coming back around this way. Councillor Gabbard, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if copies of the Plus VG reports will be coming to council.
CAO?
Through you, Mayor Norcross, to Councillor Gabbard, we can certainly provide council with any degree of information that they would like to see in these reports. I'd look to Mr. Gaudette to speak towards anything specific from Plus VG that we receive on a regular basis.
Okay, so Councillor Gabbard, are you requesting those reports be circulated to all members of council?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
And then just one follow-up, just to follow up with Councillor Jax's question and the response from the CAO about the timelines. Obviously, as each month goes on, there could be additional expenses occurred. So if we were to approve this, is it expected that additional expenses might come forward in the future?
CAO?
I don't think you can ever say that there's never any possibility of that happening, but certainly at this point in time, the larger challenges that the building has provided us are known. You know, the structural challenges on the north wall, i.e. there was no structure, the fact that the brick veneer was not actually attached to the building, the fact that the sanitary sewer was flowing backwards, things like that are all known now and are being addressed or have been addressed. So certainly at this point in time of the building construction, the state that it's in, I would certainly say that the largest issues that could come forward have come forward, and they have been addressed or are being addressed now.
Okay, so just one last question is, I see that we approved a 6% contingency, and I also don't work in the construction industry, but I'm just wondering what best practices, kind of what we've learned from this experience in terms of what types of contingencies we should be approving on go-forward projects, and also whether or not we're going to be back here again to approve an additional contingency.
CAO?
Through you, Mayor Norcross, to Councillor Gabrick, we have in place a capital project administration policy that has recommended contingencies that council has adopted. So when whether it be facilities or engineering or our public works area are walking a project through the process, then we adhere to that policy with respect to the level of contingency as it's approved by council.
Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. Just to follow up on that capital administration policy, was that in place before the new administration building received approval?
CAO?
Mayor Norcross, through you to Councillor Cox, no, I don't believe it was.
Sorry, supplementary. When you say that the contingency assigned to this project was a modest 6%, is the background behind the 6% contingency, was it presented to the council that approved the new administration center as modest when it came before council?
CAO?
Mayor Norcross, through you to Councillor Cox, I'm not sure it was described as modest. It was recognized to be lower than the usual contingency. The approach that was taken with this building, given the retrofit approach, was we did do a selective demolition interior and let the general contractors that were bidding on the job see the project. That did limit the risk, or at least lower the amount of risk that the town would be exposed to. But obviously, it does not completely eliminate it or fully mitigate it. But it was recognized that that level of contingency was lower than what would normally be looked at.
Thank you. I'm just going around the horseshoe. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. I sincerely hoped that we would never get to this conversation. It is my opinion that this project hasn't been managed appropriately. A modest 6% contingency was what was recommended to the previous council. And this report suggests that it should be upwards towards 20%. That is a very, very large difference. Renovations, restorations, retrofits, I think it's fairly common knowledge that these things generally end up costing more because of all these hidden things that we find behind the walls and under the floors and in the ground. I hate to say I sounded the alarm on this project plenty of times with plenty of justification and alternate options over the years, but it fell on deaf ears. So I cannot and absolutely will not, in good conscience, vote for this increase to the budget. I will not put this burden onto the taxpayers of New Tecumseh. I just won't. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to run the horseshoe. Councillor Masters, and then I'm going to give Councillor Foster, you pulled it. You can have the final say.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Clarification.
Just a question through you, Your Worship, to CEO Blaine. What is the reporting procedure? We have Matheson as the actual contractor. Then we have VG, who is our contract that we signed a deal with to take care of the whole project for us. So how does the reporting go? So basically, if I understand it correctly, is VG there to manage and report to us? How does the reporting go?
CAO?
Mayor Norcross, through you to Councillor Masters. So first of all, just to clarify, both Matheson and Plus VG have contracts directly with the town.
Okay.
So both are providing reporting to us. Matheson certainly through their schedule updates and things like that, provide them both to Plus VG and the town. Plus VG does provide us with regular reporting as well as specific reporting that we request on issues or status of change orders or things like that whenever we ask for them. But other than that, that's fairly standard, I would think, for this type of project. Certainly, Ms. Gaudette could provide more details as she's managing it hands-on.
Okay, so as I understand, then what you're saying is that Matheson will report directly to the town, which is you, and/or VG can report directly to you. Is that correct? Or is it Matheson report to VG, then VG reports to you? In that way.
Actually, both. Both Matheson and Plus VG report to the town, and Plus VG reports to the town on other items that we may ask their input on.
Okay, thanks. Just supplement one final question. Now, I haven't seen the contract. I understand that we signed a fixed contract for this, fixed price contract for this. I imagine that's still in effect. So doesn't matter what gets spent, they can't go over a certain price. Is that correct?
CAO?
For the elements in that fixed price contract, yes. But I'd ask Ms. Gaudette to speak specifically to the contract.
Because so that includes contingencies, or is it?
I won't speak for him. I understand what the CEO is saying, but I'll just refer to Manager Cadet, please.
Pardon me. Sure. Thank you, Worship. Through you to Councillor Masters. I think what CAO Parkin was trying to say is the base bid contract remains unchanged. However, anything that arises that could not have been foreseen and therefore was not included in the base bid, so the items we are spending the contingency funding on are above and beyond the base contract value. So the base contract value will not change. The building as was scoped needs to be provided. However, you know, to CAO Parkin's earlier comment, the selective demolition did not expose the cinder block. And so once it was determined that the cinder block was loose, as an example, that was outside of base contract and would have expended contingency funding, and that is not fixed.
Okay, just one thing. Did the contract include the furniture?
Go ahead, Manager.
Through you, Worship, to Councillor Masters, the Matheson contract does not include furniture. It does have some minor outdoor furniture, but it would not include office furniture, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you. I understand, through you, Worship, to CAO Parkin, I believe from our previous conversations and reporting on this, I understand your hesitancy to, speculate or estimate on the completion or substantial completion of this project. And that perhaps even for liability at this point, working off of Matheson's schedule is the safest route to take. I just, and maybe I am asking this rhetorically, but at what point do we owe the taxpayers an answer as to our best guess? Ours, council who approved this, staff who is managing this, when do we owe them our best guess as to when this project is going to be completed and the incremental additional expenses that very likely could be incurred between now and that date? Thank you.
CAO.
Mayor Norcross, through Councillor Jackson, we can certainly provide our best estimate at any point in time, Councillor Jackson. We're more than happy to do that, given what the knowledge that we have of the project and the current workforce. But again, that can be, extended or shortened relatively quickly without, with simply the contractor, addressing or removing labor forces from the project. But we can certainly provide our best estimate.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. I'm wondering if it's appropriate. I would like an update on the delay claim. I know it's been a long day, so alternatively, are we able to go in camera when this comes back to council? I guess that's through to the clerk, and maybe we'll leave that discussion for council, unless anyone's dying to go in camera again.
No, that's a great question, because this will be coming back on the council, so we can add it as an in-camera item if we so choose. So yes, Deputy Mayor. No, thank you. Councillor Foster, I'll go to you, and we do have to give direction. So I'll look to you, and then I'll just make my comments at the end, respectfully.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. I want to I want to get some clarification. I think most other areas have been covered, but there's a comment in here about the key finding. And the key finding refers to the Canadian Cost Guide estimates that the cost of a municipal building has increased 75% since 2021. Since the fixed price contract was signed in June 14th, I just want to understand the relevance of that statement to this report. I just don't see it, so if I could respectfully get an explanation from that.
Manager?
Thank you, Worship, through you to Councillor Foster. That comment was put in there again to reflect items that are not in base contract. Base contract will not change. However, on contingency items and change orders, we are, of course, dealing with those inflationary issues that are currently impacting the market.
Supplementary, so if that comment was directed to the contingency aspect of it, I would be in full agreement. But it seemed as if when it referred to the cost of a municipal office building, it was referring to 90% of the money, which is already a fixed price contract, so it has no matter. So if that's the clarification as I understand it, then that's a fair comment. I just want to, I want to go to something because I think when you don't understand something, you just have to ask a question. On the last page, it says, as a result of the above financial constraints and anticipated costs to complete the project, staff are recommending a 1.3 million increase to the contingency budget. A significant portion of this adjustment can be funded, and it was through three ways. Through revenue generated as a result of the delayed occupancy date, the appreciation of the appraisal value of the existing town office property, and the delay in the debenture issue will fund approximately 70% of the increase. When I read that, I'm gonna give my opinion as to what it says, and then I would respectfully ask for someone to please clarify so through revenue generated as a result of the delayed occupancy date, I can assume that that's because the money that was put in the 2023 budget related to staffing for the town hall, maybe utility costs and everything else, have not been used. So therefore, that's the through revenue generated as a result. If I'm correct in that, am I correct in that assumption as to what it is?
CO?
Through your worship, Councillor Foster, that really was not the intent of that statement.
Okay, please correct me.
Although there would be small amounts as a result of your statement. The intent of that statement was that when we did the budget originally, and is this project 2020? Does anybody know what date? Thank you. So in 2021, we did a detailed indication of how this project was going to be funded, and one of the ways it was going to be funded was with the surplus or the proceeds from the sale of this building. Well, because of the time delay, this building will be appraised at a higher value than what we estimated back in 2021. So there would have been more to be contributed back to the HEC fund as a result of that delay. The other component that I was referring to, so if you recall during the budget cycle, we have been putting $400,000 a year into a reserve that we built back in 2021, so there was no further impact to the taxpayer because that was an established baseline. We were going to use that reserve to start the payments towards the debenture, but because we won't have debentured, because we haven't completed the building yet, we will have that additional $400,000 to put towards the cost of the building. So those were the two elements that I was referring to.
Okay, thank you, GM Bedford. But if we don't pay, so I'll use we, our generation, doesn't pay that debenture in 2023 because the building's not occupied, our offspring will pay the debenture plus accumulated interest 20 years when the debenture expires. So it will be a cost. It will just not be a cost incurred in this year, but you're still not asserting that the cost goes away. The cost is just deferred. So if it was put in there that the cost will be deferred, would that read differently? I guess that's when I'm not. I guess the analogy I use is if I don't put my roof on this year, I've not saved $10,000. I put the roof on next year. Sorry, I was using the analogy of if I don't put my roof on this year, the roof's still going to leak. So I might have saved $10,000 cash flow, but I've not saved a $10,000 cost. I've just deferred it. This would come under exactly the same logic.
Through your worship,
GM?
Councillor Foster, our justification would have been that we just increased that reserve balance by the $400,000 that we received. So we will be applying $400,000 against the cost. Therefore, we don't have to debenture the additional $400,000. We've got one extra year of reserve that we've contributed. Yes, the debenture will be delayed, and so the payments, if it's a 30-year debenture, it'll be 30 years plus 1 year. So there will be an additional payment on the other side.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just going to wrap up my comments with, here's the dilemma as I see it. You're asking, staff is asking for $1.298 million. $350,000 is already committed and has come out of the anticipated fixtures, furnishings, and equipment. If the way we sit here tonight, so we can go two ways. We can approve it, move on. If we do not approve the $1.3 million, I would assume that you would, I see you yourself, Mr. CAO, or somebody, or referring to the email that I'd asked earlier on today about, is that, and I quote, "And further that the CAO, GM of Corporate Services, CFO, and Director, Financial Services, Treasurer be authorized to make in-year budget adjustments as required during the fiscal year with no impact on the approved 2023 taxation levy." So if we were to go down the path of not approve the $1.3 million, yourself or one of those three people would exercise the authority within the overall budget to enforce payment, but then we would have no furniture. So if we had $1.5 million in furniture and you took the $1.3 million out of the furniture, we'd have $200,000 of furniture. And so, in essence, our hand is being forced. Is my logic resonating with you or not? Because that's what I see now, is that I personally don't want to approve this money, but the way the current setup is that if these bills are out there and coming in and you have to pay them, you have to take that money from somewhere. And the only place you can take the money from would either be out of the contingency, which is gone, out of the FF&E, which is the last pool of money that's there that's not spoken for. So I guess to GM Bedford or the CAO, I'm understanding that correctly. I just want to understand process here now, without anything more, because there's going to be a knee-jerk reaction here. We're going to go one way and approve it, then it's done. If it goes the other way where it's not approved, the answer is...
Point of order.
Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Bess.
Yes, Your Worship, I believe that Councillor Foster should be directing his questions through the chair and not directly to the staff.
Thank you. So,
Well, to formalize things for my
Thank
friend, Mr. Biss, Councillor Biss, through you, Mayor Norcross, please, Councillor Biss, remind me when I have expired the question, and I'll go back through Mayor Norcross again. So through Mayor Norcross to the CAO or to GM Bedford.
CAO, I'll direct it to you, and you can direct where you like, please.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. The answer to your question, what you read, Councillor Foster, is part of the motion that's passed with the annual business plan and budget that does provide that authority so that budgets can be managed appropriately in year. So yes, the answer to your question is we would go back and see where we could, look at managing within the total project budget to ensure that the project does not require additional funding. So yes, what we would look at, the first thing would be, instead of new furniture going into the building, we would simply move all the furniture from this building to that building. But we would look at, anything and everything within the total approved budget to ensure that there would be no overruns.
Okay, so
Thank you, CAO. Through Mayor Norcross, you would have the ability to just make the decision to say, we're going to commit the money anyways. So what I'm going to propose, without going back, is that I'd like to put a motion on the floor.
Go ahead, please.
That we currently do not approve the 1.3 million, and that, I'll ask for the proper wording, is that the current delegated authority related to this project be restricted to the point that no additional funds can be removed from the remaining money allocated to FF&E, however you want to word that.
thank you. I'll look to the clerk to,
If Councillor Foster can just repeat that one more time.
Do I have to go through the mayor to speak to you?
go ahead, Councillor Foster.
Thank you kindly. What I was asking is that the $1.298 million not be approved, and that, assuming that the only remaining money within the overall project budget not be spoken for, is that the FF&E minus the $315,000 be held at that amount, and the delegated authority not be permitted to be used to withdraw that money.
I'll look to the clerk while she's, counsel, do you understand the motion that's on the table? I'm seeing a lot of no's. So basically, Councillor Foster, correct me if I'm wrong, the motion is not to approve the additional funding, and that town staff work within the funding that's already been allocated and make whatever adjustments that they have to do to stay within the approved budget that was given to them. Does that sum it up, Councillor Foster?
Not exactly, because the approved budget includes the $14.5 million, the contingency, and the FF&E. I want to specifically address that the remaining funds that are not spoken for and committed for cannot be used in replacement of the $1.3 million that I'm hoping we don't approve tonight,
Okay, unless it comes back for council approval.
unless we have a further discussion at council.
Okay. Okay, so that's the motion that's on the floor. Is there somebody that's willing to second that motion? Councillor Jacks, is there comment, is there any questions for clarity on the motion? Councillor Rappin.
I need to make sure I'm understanding this. By not approving this money, are we sending an unintended, well, I would consider it an unintended message to staff? Because we're talking about giving them old furniture and drag this over and do that kind of thing, and we're drawing the line here, and once again, it's staff that's, I guess, taking the brunt of it? Like, are we meaning to do that? Or Councillor, through you to Councillor Foster, are you leaving money for the allocation to furniture? I'm a little unclear as to, you said it can't be from there, but it can be from.
Through you, Mayor Norcross, to answer.
Can you use your microphone, please? Thank you.
Answer Councillor Rappin's question. Absolutely no intention of it. It's preserving the money in the fixtures, furnishings, and equipment so that it cannot be depleted further, because currently $315,000 of that $1.5 million has been taken from that furniture. So what I'm suggesting is that no more be taken from it.
And leave the remaining.
And further to your comment about any intended messages, this is about business, Councillor Rappin. This is nothing at all personal. I've shown respect to the staff my entire term, so there was no intended, unintended message. So please, if it was conveyed that way, then your interpretation is completely wrong. Thank you.
I'm going to move this along, so.
Thank you for your clarification.
Okay, thank you. I had the Deputy Mayor, then I had Councillor Biss, as I saw the hands. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. So I guess what I was anticipating, obviously not supporting this, and then going to the alternative option, which is to use the FF&E and reuse for a little bit anyways, the furniture that we have in this building. So the things they need this money for, are they more or less important than furniture? I guess is my question, right? Like, should we be using the FF&E budget to finish off the building, because those issues may be more important than brand new furniture? I guess is my question. Thank you.
I'll look to the CAO. You don't have, like, if you're able.
I'm not going to speak to whether or not the issues are more important or less important than furniture. There are issues that still have to be addressed in the building. You know, the town decided to retrofit a 60-year-old building. There's been issues with it. I'm not sure how that could be avoided.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Certainly open for suggestions, though.
Thank you. Councillor Biss?
Thank you, Worship. Through your worship to maybe Jim Bedford, if this motion goes forward, how will you pay the bills?
GM Bedford?
Through your worship? I don't know. there are expenses that have been incurred that need to be paid. We could use every last stick of old furniture, so, well, although, sorry, Councillor Foster's motion implied we wouldn't have the authority to do that. So there's only so much we would get. I don't know how we would pay it. I have no answer.
Okay.
So, Your Worship, with that response, there's no way that I could support this motion. We are right near the finish line here. I mean, the councillors that were on council the last term, they have had since that time until today to discuss these issues for years and years and years. To now we're at the finish line. Staff has come to us and asked us for additional funding for this. And if we don't approve it, then we're just going to delay a project even further and further and further. I just don't see, obviously I don't like the fact that it's $1.3 million. None of us do. We've seen similar increases in contingencies and budgets for other projects this year. And it didn't even make it to be called to the floor. And we just we just approved it. We get to this where we're very close to actually closing in and getting this done and set and put in the rearview mirror for the town. Heal and move forward. And now we're debating it at the last minute. So I will not support this. I hope that we can just go forward, get it done, make the adult decision to get it done, and put it behind us.
Thank you, Councillor Biss. And I just want to say, I've heard council loud and clear, and I've heard the points that have been made, and I agree with a lot of them. Where I sit and I struggle is that I don't like to be in a position where I have to do something without due consideration and thought, so that I want to put into it. But anyhow, we have a motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Foster, was seconded by Councillor Jacks. Is there any questions for clarity on the motion? Councillor Gabrick, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if the Councillor Foster's motion can be severed so that the two things are considered as separate motions, because blending them, I think, would create some confusion when people are voting.
No, I agree. So yes, they can be separated. Are you okay with that, Councillor Foster? Okay, then I would go to the clerk. Could we separate them? So if you could read the first one, please.
So there will be three. The first one's a simple one. That report PRC 2023-13 be received. You can just vote on that one.
Okay, so kind of a mover and a second on that PRC 2023.
It'll be the same mover and seconder, Your Worship. So you just have to vote on it.
Okay, can we have a vote on that, please, to receive it? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, clerk.
The next motion is the council not approve an additional contingency amount of $1,298,000.
Okay, so we have a motion that council does not approve the contingency amount. And that was moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Jacks. Okay, so that's the straight up motion there. It's separated out. All those in favor of that motion? And that's carried. What is the next one, please?
The last motion is that the delegated authority for the new town hall project provided to staff not be used to reallocate any further funds from the FF&E.
Okay, is there questions on that one? So the intent of that motion is that the money that's still left in the FF&E stays there to be used for furniture and fixtures and equipment, correct, Councillor Foster, and not be transferred anywhere else? Okay. Can I have a mover and a
It's the same mover and seconder.
same mover and seconder? Are you okay, Councillor Jacks, Councillor Foster? You're both okay with that? Okay. So all those in favor of that motion, please. That does not carry. Okay. Deputy Mayor McClellan, do you have a further motion that we could put on the floor, please?
I do. It would be the alternative option to use the FF&E budget to accommodate the added contingency. If any's left, then we use what we can to buy furniture that may break on disassembly. and then that gets us the money as the alternative option on the report. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Gabrick. Council, any questions in regards to the motion? The motion's clear. Okay, I would look at the clerk to make sure that we're okay and we're fine. Okay, thank you very much. All those in favor of that? That does not carry. No. I'm going to have it read again, if that's okay. All those in favor of that motion? Does not carry. So, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So just for clarification of council, the report was received and it was adopted by council not to approve an additional contingency amount of $1,298,000.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I don't think that we can leave our staff in this position. There's bills that have to be paid. We're going to get into further lawsuits, delays, and all sorts of issues. So it's not, there needs to be some solution provided to them. That's our role. And we're letting them down if we don't do this, do something now.
I agree.
We can't leave it.
Go ahead.
It's just the methodology.
That's, yeah, go ahead.
Can we get some clarity
Sure.
from the GM, please?
Yeah.
Through your worship, Councillor Foster, I'm not following through what delegated authority would we get those funds? A completely different project? Is that what you're referring to?
No, if, I asked a question about delegated authority and copied you on the email today about if,
Through your worship to council, just for clarification, it didn't pass that we were using old furniture, correct? So therefore, we're expected to go buy new furniture, which will use up whatever funding was available to apply to the contingency. That's my understanding. So I've missed a piece.
Okay, so I'm going to go to the CEO. Councillor Biss, I'll come right to you, I promise.
Thank you, Mayor Norcross. So my understanding is the report was received. The additional funding was not passed by council. The motion that was considered after that with respect to continuing to keep the FF&E budget strictly towards FF&E did not pass. So through the delegated authority that Councillor Foster referenced, there is the delegated authority to take the funding that remains in the FF&E budget and use it to address the remaining contingencies and anything else within the project, as long as the total project budget is managed within that upper level of what's been approved.
Correct, that's exactly how I...
Yes.
Sorry.
However, one more element to that, because we are expected
wasn't, so I'll go to the clerk, sorry. Which is always, Mr. CEO, that's how I understand it, exactly what you just said. Yeah, that's how I understand it. So if there's confusion around the table, we're clarifying it. But I agree, it just stays the same, just not adding the extra 1.3. And I'll look to the clerk to read the last motion, please.
Okay, and further that the FF&E account be used to accommodate any further funds needed for contingency purposes. And that was defeated.
So, go ahead, CAO.
Mayor Norcross, for clarity, that motion actually didn't need to be passed for us to have the authority to do that.
Correct. Correct, exactly. So I think we're good, council. Thank you.
Through your worship, just for clarification, which I'm not even going to debate the motion anymore. But we're using FF&E.
I'm going to the CAO, please. Thank you, CAO. Councillor Bess.
Thank you, Worship. I think there's still a lot of, I'm glad that this is committee of the whole and not council, so we have a couple weeks to think about what we've all done here. I would also like to make a quick motion. I'd like to move that based on what has transpired here, I'd like to have staff come back to us to outline the implications of what we had just decided so that we can understand financially immediately and on a go-forward basis how this impacts this project. Would someone second that for me?
Sure.
Do you need a motion for that, or just direction would be fine?
A motion would be fine, Mayor Norcross, but to be quite honest with you, that was already in the back of my mind.
I'm sure it
We would
was.
do a detailed accounting for council's benefit to demonstrate that the project can be delivered within the total project allotted.
Thank you. Are you okay with direction?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, council. That was a great discussion. And we will be talking about it again in 2 weeks. So there is, I just have to move a motion here now. No, they're all moved. So I'll look to the clerk. Just going to go to public notices. There's a planning public meeting scheduled for Wednesday, June 7th at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. All are welcome. And I'll look for adjournment at 9 o'clock at the Committee of the Whole of June 5th, 2023, adjourn at 9 p.m. Moving to seconder, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Harrison McIntyre. Thank you for the long day. We were very productive today. Thank you for putting your time in. We've accomplished a lot. Thank you.